Hello! I'm Malkston, Guild Leader of Casually Optimal, and this video will teach you how to play Vashjyball. This game is played on Lady Vash Phase 2, which we've already entered. In this phase, Tainted Elementals spawn, and they drop an object called a Tainted Core, which is essentially the ball we're playing with. These elementals despawn if not killed within 15 seconds, which is what happened here. While we wait for the next one to spawn, let's go over the other aspects of the fight. The large creature whose legs you see here is called a Coilfang Strider. These creatures have a melee range aura that constantly fears anyone next to them, which just happened to me. Vashjyball is a team game, and in this instance, we're playing 2v2 with one healer being an impartial referee. The primary purpose of Coilfang Striders in this game is that you misdirect them to your opponents, forcing them to deal with them or get feared uncontrollably all over the room. You can see this happening here again. In this round, my teammate was the mage Johnny Jones, and the clever hunter Ariana had already misdirected the Strider to him. To try and aid my teammate, I slowed the Strider, giving Johnny just enough time to kill him before he got feared again. Enchanted Elementals spawn constantly during Phase 2, and buff Lady Vash when they reach her. Damage done to Enchanted Elementals is one of the ways you can score points. Trash talking is also an important part of the game, as I just told Ariana how I felt about him misdirecting a Coilfang Strider to me. Fortunately, his teammate Nazy drew aggro on it because we were still learning how to play ourselves. To return the favor, I assisted him by helping slow the Coilfang Strider down. Naga also spawn periodically, and because things are kind of chaotic, they wind up going for our poor referee healer, Zevior. Unlike Striders, Naga are not a significant threat at level 85, and have as much health as a normal mob in the Twilight Highlands. They do, however, have a 10-second hamstring ability, which can definitely hamper your mobility. At this point I have been tossed the Tainted Core. The rules of the Tainted Core are simple. Whichever team has it the least time wins, but you must pass the core to each of your own team members before you can pass it back to the other team. To encourage people to loot the first core, the first possession doesn't count. Also, you just ignore any other Tainted Elementals that spawn. Although it was taking us a while to pass the core in this game, with macros, hotkeys, and a little practice, the game gets interesting as you and your teammates try to leapfrog while simultaneously trying to get within 40 yards of an opposing team member. As you learn, if a mistake is made, like the referee being tossed the core in this section here, just toss it back and keep playing. This core mechanic is also part of the beauty of the game. As you add more players, it becomes easier to kill the Elementals, Naga, and Striders, but more difficult to pass the core between every player on your team before you can send it back. In a few seconds here, I'm going to receive the core again, which demonstrates another possible tactic. While I have the core, I cannot move, and therefore will stay in place despite the Strider's fear. This lets me effectively tank the Strider. You could also use this in a couple other ways. You could toss the core to a feared team member to keep them in place. If you're really pro, and have already passed the core between your own team, you could pass it to an opponent too close to a Strider, causing them to be fear-locked until their teammates can come bail them out. By the way, the intended way to beat the encounter was to move the cores to the blue towers and use them to deactivate Lady Vash's shield. However, since she's immune to damage, she can't be accidentally killed, which would lock you out of the game until the Tuesday reset. It takes almost 5 minutes to get enough cores to remove the shield, plus all of Phase 3, meaning it would be very difficult for a frustrated team to grief you by killing her and saving you to SSC. Even better, you only have to kill 2 trash packs to reach Lady Vash. You must also survive the elevator, of course, which is quite challenging. Let me show you a different attempt, in which we did a better job of passing the core. A Tainted Elemental is about to spawn, and you can see the green arc showing its position. I go for it, but Ariana pops Darkflight and gets there before me. Since loot is free for all, he gets it. His teammate is also right next to him, so he passes it to him, but fortunately, I get out of Zevior's range before he can dump it on me. Nazy and I are able to move to the far side of the room, and if you watch the minimap, you can see the green dot move, then the orange dot, then the green dot, as they leapfrog their way over to us. This is where another strategy decision comes into play. Nazy and I could have moved to the bottom of the far platform, but the mobs are much closer the closer you are to Vash, therefore you can do more damage in the center. Also, we may have gotten stuck down there like Alriana and Zevior did. Since there was no dedicated healer in this attempt, we were just trying to stay alive as long as we could before Vash's lightning killed us. It does about 12,000 damage when she's at 60 stacks, so it's definitely a problem without a healer. When does the game end? There are many natural stopping points, so you'll need to agree on one ahead of time. For 2v2, if a player dies, their teammate has no one to pass the core to, so that is clearly a loss. Another stopping point could be when Lady Vash hits 99 stacks, or when the first core despawns after 5 minutes. For 3v3 or more, I suggest you use a series of categories to determine who wins. A link to an explanation of these categories is in the comments section. That's basically how you play Vashjyball. I plan on making a 3v3 or 4v4 video in the future to better demonstrate what Vashjyball would look like when things are a little less chaotic. If you're interested in helping me film or edit this video, the best way to get a hold of me is to send mail to Melkston on US Proudmoore. This video will also contain a number of different variants, including free-for-all, more complicated methods of scoring for larger teams, and even some variants like Ultimate Vashjyball or Extreme Vashjyball. Again, my name is Melkston, and I'm the guild leader of the Proudmoore guild Casually Optimal. We're recruiting all players level 80 plus and over age 21 with the short-term goal of leveling the guild, a medium-term goal of clearing Firelands, and a long-term goal of hardcore raiding. One thing that sets our guild apart is our commitment to training new members on an individual basis, as well as spending 90% of our efforts in making things go smoothly. I won't bore you with my qualifications as a guild leader, but rest assured that a guy with the time and will to make a video about a game called Vashjyball is plenty knowledgeable. Casually Optimal is also interested in any new opportunities for raiding that might appear later in the year, like patch 4.3. Proudmoore is a fantastic server with a very active community. It is also the server a large number of Oceanic players chose before there were Oceanic servers, and they start to log on about midnight in the US, making this an ideal server if you're an American who works second or third shift. It is PvE and dominated by Alliance. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. I'll leave you with a riddle. What did the Night Elf say when he met the Prophet Muhammad? Ishnu Allah. Thanks, and don't forget to tip a Nauru bartender. They never forget.